That's all the best. Well, a very good morning to you and welcome to the second in our series of 3 webinars brought to you by Cabot Legacy. My name is James Lennox. I'm your host for this morning and I am joined by the CEO of Cabot Legacy, Alex Simeonides. Next to him, Brandon Garbutt, the Managing Director of Cabot Legacy. Great to have you guys here. Looking forward to what you have to say. Now, if you were with us last week, you would have learned all about HomeVantage, one of the 4 new products that have been launched into the marketplace by Capital Legacy. And it was very well received, but what you may not know, gentlemen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's created ripples all the way up to origination and to estate agents.
Yeah, we've had a few days of ripples and waves. We've heard from some of the big players in the industry that we've certainly got something. So we've rattled some cages and we've got the attention.
Yeah, definitely positive feedback in the last 10 days, which is great, which is fantastic.
Well, one of the things that I really like about Capital Legacy is that they are disruptors and they know how to shake up the marketplace. And today is going to be no different. We are going to be doing accreditation and training for the next in the products series of MyCover. Now, it does beg the question, Alex, why has Capital Legacy decided to switch to offering life cover?
So, James, it's not so much of a switch that you allude to. It's more been a natural progression of our product range because really it's about, as we've learned lessons in terms of estate administration and we adapt our product suite to meet those needs from those lessons, that we've really just stumbled on the fact that it just makes sense for us to be doing life cover as the provider of wills and estates. So not so much a switch, more a natural progression.
Great to know. So that is what it's all about, MyCover. Enough of me. It's time to find out all about what MyCover is about. Today is going to be a humdinger of a training session. I'm going to hand over now to Alex and Brandon to take us through MyCover. Enjoy it.
Right. Sure, James. A humdinger. That's put us on the spot there.
Right, so let's kick off. We're going to try something different today for this webinar. So Brandon and myself are going to be presenting together just to illuminate it a bit more.
Yeah, a bit more interaction.
And guys, just to reiterate that you're welcome to send your questions in. We'll try to answer as many as possible through James at the end of the session, else we'll get back to you directly after the session. But here we are now in terms of MyCover. So James started with the question, and you happened to stumble on my first slide, James. But look, to date, to all the advisors out there, we've actually done in excess of 2,000 estates. And I'm really proud to say that our first invention in the form of the legacy protection plan has served it really, really well, where we've indemnified the executor and the trustee fees. We felt the benefit of that with the families, where they didn't have to take money out of their back pockets. It results in a quicker and a more seamless estate administration. And then another feature of the legacy protection plan being the immediate liquidity benefit that we were able to pay out within 24 to 48 hours, just alleviating that cash crunch that happens. And like we mentioned, Brandon, we learned from our lessons. And while we were doing those products, we realized if you were with us in 2018, that there was another hole that we needed to plug. And that was the actual estate cost while we were winding up the estate. An example being the medical aid that we need to pay for the children or the master's fee. So we came up with the estate overhead protection. That's also served us really well and really helped a more seamless estate administration. And then once you've concluded the estate, to be able to hand over a life insurance policy that the surviving spouse doesn't need to pay for through our estate gap. But still, we were still experiencing problems when we came to wind up estates, even if we ticked all these boxes. And primarily, that was because there's just simply not enough life cover. Now, we all hear those studies from the other players in the industry or the NMG survey where there's not enough life insurance. And you kind of read it, and I read it, and I go, okay, the whole industry is underinsured. Try and just do product sales, but we really feel it in Capital Legacy when you wind up your estates, where it comes down to the few $100,000 being short and you're not able to settle that bond. And we really want to do something about that, and we believe that we've got a solution for it. And the second thing is us being on a mission with regards to beneficiary nomination best practice. As much as we integrate with you, the financial advisor, in terms of bringing the financial plan and the will together, more often than not, we still get in instances where the life cover is playing in the wrong place. If it needs to pay the estate, let it pay the estate. And that's because we've got this lack of complementing in terms of the advice process. And this is where I get to the point of it makes sense for us to do the life insurance when we're doing the will with you, the financial advisor. And this is where the solution comes in, because we believe that through our unique architecture of the legacy protection plan, we can actually get more cover for less to the client to solve that first problem. And because it makes sense to do it as part of the advice cycle with the people who are doing your will, we can make sure that the life cover ends up in the right place. If it needs to go to a beneficiary, let it go to a beneficiary. If it needs to go to the estate or a trust, let it go to an estate or trust.
And Alex, just jump in. I think, as you said there, with regards to the 2,000 states that we've been winding up, we've actually seen practical examples. It's not a theory. It's not us just trying to prove a theory. We've actually seen practically when the life cover is paid to the incorrect beneficiary, which actually holds up the estate going forward.
Yeah, and to be honest, sometimes you can't get that money back. We've got several cases on 100%. The go at the moment, and there's nothing you can do. And the last one that's sort of hidden below estate planning is that if someone's going to suffer a serious illness or impairment, their life expectancy is shortened, which means we don't want to say it, but there's going to be a death sooner rather than later. And if there's insufficient impairment and illness cover, what we've seen in the estates is that they've been ravaged. They're laden with debts. They have to sell properties, and it's always the executor that gets blamed, but actually it was just a lack of impairment and illness cover when it was needed most. And we believe we can bring a solution to that.
And I think cost has also played quite a prominent role in the amount of cover that people have taken from a critical illness point of view. And I think that's also a problem that we've been trying to solve.
Absolutely. So this is how the product's going to work in terms of MyCover. So at the very core of the legacy protection plan, you have legacy services and what we then call the indemnity plan. Remember, the indemnity plan is the benefit that indemnifies the executor, trustee, and conveyance fees. And we have some integrated benefits in terms of that. Remember, it's a bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and from 2018, an unlimited option. Then while we're doing your legacy protection plan, we will also look at what your additional needs are. And if you need to, you can extend off that core product with immediate liquidity, estate overheads, and estate gap. And then from the 1st of October, you'll now be able to also extend, or in other words, add a rider benefit called MyCover, or our version of life cover, which automatically comes with a feature called Benefactor, which we'll delve on just now, as well as an option to take what we call MyAbility. But what I want you, the advisor, to focus on here is the fact that the life cover is an extender or rider benefit to the core product. Now, this is important. Let me explain why. So typically, a life insurance product, the main act is the life cover. When I say the main act, that means that the life cover needs to carry the expenses of the life insurer, be its head office, its incentive trips, its underwriters, which means it's held back in terms of being able to give more benefit for less because it's got to cover those costs, and on those costs it needs to make a margin. Whereas in our world, the legacy protection plan has already taken care of all of those things, which means the MyCover or life cover, our version of life cover that's been added on as a rider or an extender option, is able to give more value. Now, how we give more value, because now remember, we don't have the expenses, how we give more value is through what we call Benefactor. So whatever expenses we save, because they're already inside the legacy protection plan, we translate into a feature called Benefactor. Now, this is how Benefactor is going to work in 3 easy steps. So the first step is we need to determine what the value of your Benefactor is. So the things that go into it is, firstly, what legacy protection plan type did you choose? So for example, did you choose a bronze or did you choose a platinum? Depending on that type will determine how much Benefactor is going to be available to you. Then we'll look at you as an individual, your demographic. Are you a smoker? Are you female? Are you a rating category 2? Are you a rating category 1? And when we do the examples, we'll be able to illustrate that. And then we also have automatically built in large case discount or case size. Because if you're coming to us to do 500,000 cover or 5 million cover, there's going to be more profit. And we're truly on a mission to get more benefit to the beneficiaries in the event of a death. And so we build in a case size discount through Benefactor. Then we get to where the rubber hits the road. We've got 3 choices when it comes to Benefactor. Your client can either choose to have more benefit. What we do is we take the expenses that we saved, and if they choose to have more benefit because they're currently underinsured, we will then use that saving on the expenses and go and buy life insurance at the real cost and not put anything or any margin on top of that, okay? Alternatively, if they just need that amount of cover that they've got, or they maybe need, they can go for a premium discount, which directly relates to the expenses that we saved. Remember, we save the expenses because the life cover is an extended benefit. Or alternatively, they can go for a combination benefit where we have cash back, which means they can get a cashback every 5th year. We aim to have it equal to about the first year's installment, sometimes more.
Sometimes more. It's around about the first year's or one year's premiums. You get back every 5 years.
And in the spirit of getting more benefit, because we often see that there's just simply not enough life cover, you'll get a portion of more benefit together with that cash back. And then the last step is where we can do what no other life insurer can do. We can indemnify the proceeds of the life cover that are paying the estate or the trust. What do I mean by this? So if you take a life insurance and you make it pay the estate or the trust, there are executive fees, there are trustee fees. At Capital Legacy, we do those services. We can have the life cover pay out to the estates and the trust, and we can indemnify 100% of the executor and trustee fees. And when we go through the examples, we'll show you how much additional life cover you really do need to take as a comparative. And by having that built into the product free at no absolute cost, you can actually in effect get more cover into the hands of the beneficiaries when an untimely death happens.
And what's quite nice in our calculator, we actually show how much you would actually need to take if you had another institution or another entity to actually cover those fees.
To make the comparisons a bit
100%.
easier. And then for some unknown reason, and maybe some companies have changed, we've got unlimited amounts of beneficiaries because we want to try and encourage beneficiary nomination best practice. And if you need multiple trusts to be the beneficiaries, we can do that. Brandon?
Great. So another reason that myself and Alex are actually on stage together was actually my idea, because those of you who actually know Alex, to make him stand up here for 1 hour without moving is a mission. So I actually decided to punish him and make him stand up here without having to move, Alex. Cool. So Alex has alluded to the big high idea in terms of what MyCover actually is. But if we actually look at our pricing strategies, let's take a step back. Alex talks about all these costs that we're actually saving. What does it actually mean in our pricing strategy? So in terms of MyCover, we aim to be comparable to the big 5 life insurers that are already out in the market. We're particularly well placed with women and smokers. Quite an interesting stat for those of you who don't know, we've got over 250,000 clients at Capital Legacy, of which over 50% of our clients are actually female. So we're definitely well placed in terms of the pricing strategy for women and smokers going forward. More often than not, we're able to offer more benefit for the same premium, and I'm going to show you that when we do the examples. And then the last point is I actually want to just spend a bit of time here. Alex was alluding to it with regards to cost, but let me explain it to you practically. So what happens is, in this day and age, you often go through medical questions, and there's a loading, which is often put on a life case. So what happens in practically, and it's happened through life insurance, Alex, for as many years as we've known, is when there's a loading, that loading is put on the cost price. In other words, what the price is or the cost if you were to pass away and the reinsurer pays out the claim. But now that loading is carried through the whole life or the extent of the actual product. So that loading, let's say it's 25%, you get 25% loading on the cost price. Then you get 25% loading on the acquisition cost. You have 25% loading on the distribution costs, commissions, etc. And is that totally fair to the actual client who just needs a loading for if they were to pass away and what the actual claim is? So what we are actually pushing from a Capital Legacy point of view, and really pushing forward to be one of the first in the market, is to say the loading applies to the cost of claim only. All that additional loadings we have taken out. There's no additional loading when it comes to acquisition, no additional loading when it comes to the actual distribution costs. The only thing that we are going to still keep is the financial advisor or broker will still be paid based on the loading. But all the internal costs will not be added on in that loading.
And the profit margin.
And the profit margin.
So maybe if I can explain it with another example. So let's say, for example, I apply to a life insurer and my premium is 1,000 Rand and I have a health loading. So maybe it's 30% health loading. So then my premium will go from 1,000 Rand to 1,300 Rand. So that means just by virtue of me having a health loading and in the spirit of trying to get more benefit to people, and it's a function of cost, I'm being double penalized because inside of that 1,300 Rand is the profit, the acquisition costs, and so forth.
Distribution costs.
How we're going to approach health loadings to stay true to our story is that it will be a 30% health loading, but the increase in the premium will probably only go to 1,150, which is the true cost, and we'll still pay out the broker commission.
100%. Then what's come about quite a bit since we actually did the launch about almost 2 weeks ago now is for the past 8 years, and those of you who know me well often use the term almost a decade now. The reason I do that is because anyone who works with Alex, it'll feel more like a decade than 8 years. But we've earned the trust of over 5,000 advisors who've trusted us with their clients. And we've had the question, we're honest. The question has come, what has happened to all the clients I've given you before? Are we going to be remarketing to them? Are my clients still secure and still safe? And the answer is yes. We are still the company that will go out and draft the will, that you refer us to the client. We draft the will, we do the legacy protection plan, and that's what we do from a company point of view. With regards to MyCover can only be sold via the independent financial advisor. Our internal consultants are not allowed to advise or market the MyCover product. They can only still go out and draft the will and provide the legacy protection plan. MyCover is only available to the external IFA. So for those of you who are a bit worried, your clients are still ring-fenced. They're still secured in terms of their will with us, in terms of the legacy protection plan. And now we are offering the financial advisor, when they go out, they can now offer MyCover.
If I may maybe add to that from maybe a personal note and more from a real people on the ground level. So just to remind everyone, Capital Legacy was created by financial advisors, not actuaries. It's financial advisors who have employed actuaries and underwriters. We come from a world, and myself personally, where my clients have been taken by another life insurer. I will never let that happen on our watch. We truly value the trust that you have given us, and we've earned over the almost a decade, as you put it. We have been on the receiving end. We know what it feels like to feel exposed. Cross our heart, hope to die. We will never ever cross that line because we have actually come from where you guys are.
100%. So now we've thrown out a bit of terminology, some new terms that the market's going to start to get used to, and I'd just like to cover it before we go to get actually into the practical examples. So if I quickly look at some of the terms of terminology, what we call our glossary, when I go through the examples now, when I refer to selected cover, this is the minimum amount of required cover that your client needs when you're actually doing a quote. Benefactor, as Alex says, that is our thing. It's our unique currency we use to return value to the client based on the costs that we're saving, and we want to return that back to the client through what we call benefactor. Benefactor, as Alex said, is made up of 3 benefits. The first one is more benefit, and we believe this is the best benefactor choice that allows a client to buy more cover for much, much less, and I'll show you how that works when we do the example. We then go into less premium. It's a benefactor choice that in effect returns the expense savings as a discount. So again, if you just need 5 million cover, what we'll do is we'll actually discount that premium on those expenses that you're saving. The third benefactor choice, as Alex alluded to, is our cashback. This benefactor choice in effect returns the expense savings back every 5 years in a cashback. And as I said before, it's round about, Alex, it's about a year's premiums paid back once every 5 years. Again, we'll show you the example now. And then what does Capital Legacy do, and what have we done for 8 years now, almost a decade, is our indemnification. That's what we're known for. And our benefactor indemnification, this is the amount of comparable cover one needs to insure executor and trustee fees. Again, when I show you the example, this is the amount of cover, additional cover that you would need to take if you're going with another entity to actually cover those executor and trustee fees, which we automatically indemnify for free at no cost. Liability, Alex is going to go through liability later, but this is an industry or SA first, where it combines critical illness and impairment cover in one to really derive value for the client. Will fee, the amount we pay upfront based on the extent of the estate being the beneficiary. So if you make the beneficiary the estate, this is the amount of money that we can pay upfront based on that choice. And then lastly, those of you who've been dealing with us for quite some time now, you've learned of a thing called book value. So that's the value that you actually build up within your practice when dealing with Capital Legacy. And we can share in fees now in MyCover as well. And for every R1 of fees that we indemnify from the life cover, you can get 30% of the share. So if we indemnify those fees, as Alex said, if you make the beneficiary the estate or the trust, for every R1 we can indemnify, you get 30% of the share back to you as advisor when your client passes away. Okay, but as I've always said, slideshows are great, but what does it look like in practice? So what we've done is, Alex did an extremely good job when we did the launch, showing our brand new calculator or quote that we're actually bringing out. And that calculator or quote is now available on our portal or our app called Legacy Link, which your BCs are actually going to come out and actually demonstrate and show to you. But for the purpose of the webinar, what I actually just want to do is actually show you what you would actually get if you went through the whole calculation or the quote process and what the outputs actually are. So let's use a practical example. We're going to use a male and a female. And what we've done is we've selected that they have actually chosen a gold legacy protection plan. They've selected the beneficiary as the trust. They rate in category 1. And the benefactor choice, remember they had 3 choices. They could go for more benefit, less premium, or cashback. For this instance, we're going to go with more benefit. Okay, let's start off with example 1 being Mary. So Mary, we say age next is 34, female, non-smoker. Her selected cover, she came to us and she wanted 5 million, and the premium for 5 million cover is 504 Rand per month. Based on Mary's, the different demographics and steps that we looked at for Mary, based on her age, smoker status, rating category, she can now qualify for just over 5.1 million extra benefactor or more benefit at a price of 231 Rand. As Alex says, this is the raw cost to go and purchase more life cover. So now she doesn't just have 5 million, we now give her an additional 5.1 million at only 231 Rand per month. In terms of indemnification, because remember we made the beneficiary the trust, so indemnification is worth just over $1 million and 82. That's obviously no charge. That if you were with another institution, you'd have to go and purchase another $1 million in life cover to cover those executive and trustee fees. So overall, we've got a total of 11.2 million available to Mary at a premium of 734 Rand. Those of you who are doing your quick sums at the moment, try and see what you can actually do for a female, age next 34, for just over 11.2 million for 734 Rand. We, Alex, believe that this is extremely unique in the market, and from a pricing perspective, it is extremely competitive. To go to example 2, so just to show another side of the story, let's go for a male, age next 35. Again, we're going to go non-smoker. Sector cover, again, 5 million. They qualify from a benefactor point of view for more benefit at 1.8 million at a premium of 157 Rand per month. Again, guys, this is the raw cost for the 1.8 million life cover. The benefactor indemnification, again, we've made the beneficiary the trust, 731,000 Rands worth of indemnification, which you'd have to, where if you're another institution, you'd actually have to buy a life cover to cover that 731,000. So in our example 2, total of 7.5 million at a premium of 960 Rand per month. We've done our numbers, we've done our sums. Again, just like Mary, extremely competitive in the market for a male, 35 years old, 7.5 million Rand cover.
Yep.
So guys, we've often had the question since the launch, benefactor, just explain it a bit. And as I said, that's our thing. And to actually just show how the benefactor applies to each individual case, let's look at the Mary example. We went with more benefit, where she got the equivalent of 11.2 million in cover at a premium of 734 Rand, and her more benefit was 5.1 million. If we look at the less premium, if Mary had chosen the less premium and she hadn't gone for more benefit, she would have had 5 million cover, but her premium would have gone down to 503 Rand. Okay, because remember, we've taken those costs and we've actually given her a discount, and that discount's equivalent of 230 Rand per month. And then finally, our MyCover cashback, where it's a combination of more benefit as well as getting money back once every 5 years. In this case, it's slightly more. It's about 15, 16 months worth of premiums that you're actually getting back every 5 years. In this case, Mary would qualify for 7.5 million in cover for 734 Rand per month. And every 5 years, she'll get 12,000 Rand back. As I said, it's about 15 months worth of premiums, which is a hell of a benefit.
And I think what's important with these choices, just sort of dawned on me now, Brandon, and for the advisors, is that we underwrite at application stage. When we give this benefit through benefactor, be it a more benefit, a less premium, or a cashback, it's the individual behavior or choice at the time of application. That means that we're not hinging the value proposition on a future expected behavior. No. So quite often in life insurance nowadays, a lot of the additional cover or discounts you get are on the premise of your future behavior, how you submit information or go according to your health and so forth. So there's a little bit of uncertainty in that. This happens at the time of application. It's locked in. your client's going to know what they're going to get. There's no sort of wishing well.
There's no
down
gray
the
area.
line.
And people going, what if something changes in the future? What if something changes in my health, etc., etc.?
Your choice is your choice. What's important, and we'll touch on it though, is say for example, in our example, Mary chose more benefit. I think she chose more benefit, and maybe times get tough for her. Exactly what we've had at the moment, a global pandemic. In the month that she is struggling, maybe financially, she can switch to less premium.
Yes, she can. Yeah,
she can switch to less premium and then continue on less premium. She can then call us a year later and go back to more benefit, because when we take in the application, we actually underwrite the biggest amount,
100%.
so that we can always switch between the two.
And Alex, since our launch, I've actually had a lot of been chatting to a lot of advisors and using what we're currently going through as an example. So if we had brought this out a year ago and Mary had actually gone for this more benefit, the pandemic hits and she doesn't know what to do and she's a bit worried about cash flow, she can automatically call us. We automatically go down to the less premium option. And when things start to be a bit better and she realizes that she's more secure, she can call us and we automatically just move her back up to more benefit, which is extremely unique in the market.
And I think it's important just for the advisors to note that change won't create a lapse.
100%.
So now, do you want some water?
Yeah.
So now, Brandon's done the nice examples with the younger age people. He's dumped me with the smokers and older people. So I've got two more examples for you. Again, it's the same construct. We've got a gold legacy protection plan with the life insurance proceeds going to the trust. We've got a category 1 individual, and they've chosen the more benefit option. Just to stress that we're a fan favorite of more benefit because we're trying to get more cover in the hands of beneficiaries when it's needed.
Sorry, and Alex, I mean, as you said, we've got all those studies out there that show that South Africa is underinsured by, the NMG studies come out billions and trillions. And I think by the more benefit is really actually, we're trying to plug that hole. And I think it's not just a capital legacy, it's an industry thing that I think we're really doing well.
It hits home when you sit with the widow and you go, you're 300,000 Rand short to settle the bond. And that's what we're trying to solve. So let's look at our example. So in example 3, I've got a 46-year-old male who is a smoker. So again, we've selected cover of 5 million. You can see it's 2,400. And their more benefit benefactor is 1.7 million. So quite a far cry from Mary, which was 5.1 million.
5.1 million.
And that's now, we're trying to illustrate the interplay of the demographic, okay? The indemnification that's available, well, if because they've chosen the trust, is 718,000. So that means this gentleman's cover as a smoker, 46-year-old, is 7.5 million for 2,854 Rand a month. If we look at a person that's over the age of 50 who's a non-smoker, so also a male, 54 years old. Again, they select cover of 5 million. This time it's 2,100 Rand per month. And now because they're not a smoker, they can get 2.3 million, but their age weighs down a bit on them when you compare them to Mary's example of 5.1 million. So in essence, this gentleman can get 8.1 million cover for 2,723 Rand per month. And we're an open company, and we challenge you to see how that compares in terms of what you may have out there or can get out there. But now that's what the client gets, and we're a company that always goes and gives client value first.
Yep.
But we're very cognizant of you, the financial advisor, and what's in it for you. So if we go back to Mary's example, remember it was 500 Rand for the 5 million selected cover, and we selected the trust as the principal beneficiary of the life insurance proceeds. So if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, advisor WIFM, what's in it for me? So your first year commission, assuming the gold legacy protection plan, will be 6,905 Rand. Your second year commission, which is we know it as the renewal commission or the commission that pays in the 13th month, will be just under 2,000 Rand. Now, because you exercised beneficiary nomination best practice and you said, the trust needs to be the beneficiary of the life insurance proceeds, we will then trigger the indemnification, as you saw in Mary's example, which also entitles you then to a will fee. So in the inverse, if you had chosen a beneficiary, say, for example, in my gentleman's case, his spouse directly, this will fee wouldn't be applicable. But because it's going to the trust or estate, there's a will fee of 1,000 Rand that gets paid together with the first year commission. And then things get a bit interesting. So just because we're indemnifying the executive fee, now traditionally advisors, in terms of good practice management, you need to be doing wills, ring fencing your client, ring fencing the asset management, and then also having a share in the executive fees, because that's what you need to do so that you can build up a book value. Now, just because we indemnified the fees doesn't mean you shouldn't have a share of the executive fee that we indemnified. So as we know, with the gold legacy protection plan, it's 23,000 Rand share of executive fees or or book value.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember back in Mary's example, the amount of indemnification was R1 million. That was the amount of executive fees that you would need to insure for at another company. Now, because we are indemnifying it, the client doesn't need to pay that, but you are still going to get 324,000 Rand, which you see at the bottom of the right-hand screen, MyCover book value, 324,000 Rand when your client passes away as your share of executor fees. And that'll come out when the bit of executorship is issued in our favor. So we think this is a very compelling and unique approach to trying to get advisors to do more life insurance, indemnify the fees, get the will done, a complete holistic solution where you are actually rewarded accordingly.
And best practice beneficiary nomination. And I think this will drive to make sure that when an advisor actually putting a beneficiary down, there's a lot of thought behind why they're actually doing it. I think also, Alex, what's very important is we're quite unique. And when we started our book value story with our legacy protection plan, it was definitely for an advisor to build up an asset within their business. And we've seen a lot of advisors who've been supporting us that actually got quite a large asset, couple of million, that's actually sitting from a book value point of view. And now moving into the MyCover space, it's just enhancing that book value, and it's creating a really big asset that is tradable for the financial advisor out there.
And unique to us.
And unique to us.
We always try to do things that are unique to us to help you, the advisor. So now let's get on to my ability. So I alluded to it a bit earlier. Back in my financial advisor days and all coming from it, kind of always wondered why impairment and illness cover were two separate products. And just to stress to the advisors out there who are watching at the moment, I'm talking about accelerated benefits, not non-accelerated benefits. So always wondered why impairment and illness cover were separate, because you kind of got some impairment that's covered in illness, and you kind of got some illness that's covered in impairment, but neither one doing it very, very well. And then you've got the need to take two products. So what if we could actually combine the two? And we've called this My Ability. Now, you might say, well, will that dilute how much the cover for critical illness or impairment is? But no, by combining them, we're able to give the same amount of cover in certain events, but do it for much less for your client, which then talks to being able to give the client the chance to get more cover. And remember, right back in the beginning, I said, we've seen estates that have been ravaged where there's been a severe impairment or a severe illness, and they've had to borrow, beg, and steal to keep themselves out of the hole. And we want to try to solve that with My Ability. So just to see how we compare. So remember, it's one product covering impairment and critical illness. So if you suffer an accident and you have paraplegia, we'll pay 100%. Loss of sight, we'll pay 100%. We all know these now, the activities of daily living. If you can't do the activities of daily living, 100%. And then if you lose the loss of use of your arm, so your left arm, 50%. So if you go back and you look at all the general impairment covers that are out there, you'll see that compares the same. Now, it also includes critical illness. So if I have stage 3 cancer, I'll get 75%. If I have a severe stroke, 100%. If I have a mild heart attack, 50%. And then even though it's not technically a critical illness because it's more preventative, if I won't have a mastectomy, we hope not, then 12.5%. So what we're trying to say is that the really big critical things, the showstoppers that can really ruin the financial state of being of a family if there's an illness or impairment, are covered just as good as if you had two separate products in one product. But now, just to illustrate how this can actually play out, because I know this is when we deal with our own people, it's a new concept to deal with one product that does impairments and illness at the same time. So this is just, go with me on this one in terms of the example. So if we have a gold legacy protection plan, again, a male where we select more benefit and it's a non-smoker. Now, I just want to impress on the advisors out there, My Ability is a whole of life product that's accelerated off the life cover. So there's no term to 65, for example. And we're dealing with a more benefit, so they've chosen more benefit. Let me explain how this could potentially work. So in our example, they would have the gold legacy protection plan for 133 Rand a month, where the total plan value is 1.4 million. Selected cover of 3 million, and then they get more benefit. Remember, they chose the more benefit option of 1 million, and the value of the indemnification by virtue of the trust, just under 500,000, and then choose My Ability of 3 million. Now remember, you've seen one product there, My Ability, but it's actually in our current world as we know it, it's actually two products, being impairments and illness for 3 million for 416 Rand per month. Then Capital Legacy, we like to be cheeky from time to time, but in terms of competitor L, again, you would do the legacy protection plan as you've been doing with us in the past. You would do life cover of 3 million, two separate products, impairments and illness. Remember, accelerated, also whole of life. And then you have that annoying little policy fee that no advisor can really ever explain, and a total premium of 1,300 Rand per month. Now, That's what it looks like when you're giving the quote to the client. How does it look when an actual benefit is paying out? And this is where the power of combining it comes in. Let me illustrate to you. So because we combined it, we've got, if I have an impairment, a severe impairment, I've got 3 million that'll pay out. Or if I have an illness, I've got 3 million that will pay out. But remember, I selected life cover of 3 million, and by virtue of more benefit, I was able to get an extra 1.5 million through the indemnification and the more benefit. So I've actually got life cover of 4.5 million. So that means if I have a critical illness, 3 million will pay out. Then I subsequently pass away, I'll have an extra 1.5 million. But if we look at the example of competitor L, if I have a critical illness, 3 million would pay out, no impairment would be left, and no life cover would be left. So in essence, what we've managed to do is get a 14% cheaper premium, which you could then use to maybe buy up more cover to plug those holes, or just simply save the money in these trying times, but for 50% more life cover.
Yeah.
So now that's all well and good when you get a nice shiny product that pays well, but in terms of actually giving your clients life insurance, coming from the field, we really wanted to make it easy for you in terms of being able to do new business, because there's nothing worse than having a really good quality product but being severely frustrated by the new business process.
And Alex, I think what we've done at Capital Legacy, we've been very successful, is we made ease of doing business in terms of the service. As you say, product is one thing, but an advisor and their client will always go where service is we always want the best service, but it's actually the easiest to do business with. And I think that's who we really want to focus on for MyCover.
So again, going on the lessons that we've learned is that in a typical new business world, it's between you and the underwriter, and you might have your broker consultants on the side, right? The underwriter is measured on how well they control the risk coming into the life insurer. And a lot of underwriters have done a very good job of working with the broker to navigate the potential medicals that are in front of them. How we're going to approach new business is that we're going to have a thing called a new business agent. This lady will be telephone bound, and they will call your clients, do the medical questions. They will coordinate all the information that we need to get. Might be an additional questionnaire from the doctor.
Yeah.
Now, Brandon touched on it, and I'll touch on it again. We can then still go do the will. So this new business agent will then coordinate the underwriting decision and simultaneously coordinate what we call a service agent to go out and do the will. And as much as we don't have blood tests, if you do say you're a non-smoker, we'll do what we call a carbon monoxide test, which is just an exhaler test, and they'll go actually do that with your client. So in terms of your new business process, you've got the clients in the middle with you at the top, and you're supported by obviously our broker consultant, but a new business agent and a service agent. The new business agent is then interacting with the underwriter and you, the financial advisor, because they're incentivized to get the case issued, not the case issued with the correct loading. So we can create that integrity.
And I think, coming from financial advising backgrounds, is when you actually see a client, is going through the whole underwriting process is quite evasive, especially with things like medicals and doctors and blood tests.
It's a guessing game.
And we've tried to take that sort of out of the system. And that's why our new business engine is going to try and take that evasiveness away and actually try and deal with a doctor directly or a specialist directly to get the information first before we sort of calling for any additional medicals.
No, we're not going to call the advisor and say, oh, you need to go get the GPMR. We're not going to call the client and say, oh, you need to. We're going to do everything in our power to, the same way we approach doing a will in the state, where we do it for you.
And I think also proof of how we're trying to be less evasive is we all know smoker, non-smoker status, and guys have always had to have their cotinine test in terms of blood test. We are bringing first to the market in terms of our exhaler, where when our consultant is out there and he's drafting the will, he does the exhaler at the same time to actually prove either smoker or non-smoker status.
But just to reiterate the point, with MyCover, we underwrite at application stage. There's no blood tests. There is a smoker's test, and there's a series of question and answers. So that's how we'll be approaching the underwriting. So things that we're going to try we are going to do to make doing business easy. So the first is, and you saw it with the Larry King launch, is that we've got a mobile app that can be in your hand and your phone with your administrator, that can quote easily and track where your quotes and your new business is at. And then I think this is important. The quote that we actually deliver to the client is light. It's only 2 or 3 pages. It's not a ream of documents that you have to slam on the mug and bean table to get the client to try side, because that's quite daunting at times. And I say that's just for success. And then something that's developed in the insurance world is that you have the opportunity of the mobile app to pre-populate the application form and print it, all have it digitally signed, so you can make your new business process easier. And then, although the FSCA did touch on this last week, you'll have the option to have an automatic replacement advice record and limited advice options. We'll just need to be checking in with the FSCA in terms of some regulations that will be coming out regarding that. They haven't said no, just we need to do it well. And then just to stress the points again, you can do the MyCover. You have to do the MyCover as the advisor. Our guys can't do the MyCover.
Yeah.
But if you want, and more than welcome, and we encourage it, our service agent, so remember there was the new business agent and the service agent who will actually go out to the client, can do the will for your clients in the legacy protection plan. Now, in terms of my ability and the life cover itself, you would have noticed that we didn't say disability, we said impairment. So we've done away with all those pesky occupational questions. Are you a director with between 21 and 50% administration? And it's kind of anyone's guess.
I mean, what is 18% or 25% in terms of administration
travel.
or travel?
So there's no need for long-winded occupational questions. And just to reiterate, there won't be any blood tests required because we've developed a system in terms of underwriting where we can still take on the same risk, have the same risk control, but get the case out quicker without inconveniencing the client. Although we will have a carbon monoxide exhaler test. And then something that we've now solidified is that we will be able to use the recent decision of other insurers. They've been at it for much longer than us, and we've got to back their abilities to underwrite.
100%.
Now, you're going to hear us talking, or you're going to hear our broker consultants talking about this concept a bit more. It's called progressive underwriting. What do we mean by progressive underwriting? So let me use an example. Let's say I've got a client that comes in and they answer the medical questions and they present themselves as what we call and you'll know it as a substandard life by virtue of cardiovascular risk. Okay, this could be for many reasons. They maybe have cholesterol, blood pressure, maybe their BMI is a bit too high in combination. So, and there was no other evidence that we could get from the doctor. It was just that they were on maybe a vitamin-based cholesterol tablet. So there wasn't really any medical consultation that had happened. And we would issue the case with a 25% loading. Not a 25% loading on the premium, but a 25% health loading. So remember the example I said, 1,000 Rand, 30% loading would be 1,300 Rand, but it'd be about 1,150. Same principle here. But now, let's say your client's 7 months from now goes and actually sees the doctor, and the doctor does a cholesterol test. In contact with our new business agent, you can submit that cholesterol test to us, okay? And then we will actually uplift the loading and refund all the loading premiums back to the client, because we don't see health loadings as a money-making exercise. We see it as, look, you need to pay a penalty. Let's not overdo it.
It's more of a cautious, let's be cautious, and when we can prove that we don't need to be, we can obviously refund back.
Absolutely. And when we're consulting with you and the clients in the beginning of the new business process, and we're unable to get certain information, we can still issue the case, and we will coach you through what else would help the underwriting decision within a due course. Another example, and we get it often, is that come December, people want to go away, but they want to get their will done, they want to get their life cover done, you want to get it all done, but they just don't have time to get, even for example, a smoking test done.
Blood test, smoking test.
We'll be able to issue that case with the loading if your client accepts it. When they get back in January, they can do the test, pass, and we'll refund the premium. And therefore, the case is issued. What's really important, though, is that we'll never go back negatively on a decision. We'll never go back to a worse decision. If we issued you with a 25% loading, we can't go back when you do a cholesterol test and it's worse and make it a 50% loading. We can only do better. So again, we underwrite at application stage, and at that application stage, it's a photograph of your health at that time, and it can only get better in terms of progressive underwriting.
100%. I think, Alex, the reason we actually came to this is, and me and you have always used the example before, is we've said, which is quite unfair, is people go for cholesterol tests and something has happened, and on that morning, that is the reading that they take. And that's stuck with you for the rest of your life. And is that the true reading of a person from a cholesterol test going forward? And I think with what we've done with progressive underwriting, it sort of takes a snapshot of where you are at that point in time, and then we can obviously look back and say, if you've improved, we'll obviously refund those premiums. Cool. Then, guys, just some important things to know with regards to MyCover. I know we've actually covered quite a bit in the session, and I just want to kind of use this as things to know, things that you might want to think about, questions that might come to us or might come to your broker consultants. Is remember, both MyCover and MyAbility are whole of life, and I think that's very important. Very important. As Alex says, when it comes to MyAbility, it's not to age 65; it's whole of life. Currently, only age-related increases. We don't actually have a level premium. We use age-related increases. The same premium if one enters today or takes the same product 1 year later. Our benefits increase with inflation. So we look at inflation every single year, and our benefits will increase with inflation. And very important, I just want to touch on this point. The maximum of 10 million is a selected cover. Okay, so we often had the question going, oh, but I need 8 million, but then your benefactor has gone above 10 million. Am I restricted to 10 million? No. Your selected cover, the maximum is 10 million. If benefactor is above the 10 million, that will be on top of it. So it's just the initial selected cover is up to 10 million. I think that's very important for the market to understand.
And guys, I know it's only 10 million for now, but take faith in the fact that we want to underwrite claims and pay claims, and we're eating this elephant piece by piece. And I think you should take confidence from the fact that we're saying, look, we're only doing 10 million for now. It's not to say it's going to be 10 million forever. So I think it talks volumes that we build in a product with the intent to pay claims and manage our risk.
Yeah, and you take into account as well, as I said, the benefactor, which does actually increase it if one does go above the 10 million. Our maximum life cover excludes benefactor, as I just gave the example to you. The maximum of 5 million in myability, our combination of impairment, critical illness cover. Our WIFM, the normal financial advisor plus the will fee and the share of fees. And guys, I actually urge you, the calculators are out, the quote system is actually up and available through your BC. Actually go through, practice quotes, see what the benefactor choice actually is, and see how that actually applies when it comes to the WIFM. And you can opt to change between any benefactor option at any time. We used the example of what we're currently going through at the moment, where you might have chosen more benefit. Who would have ever seen a pandemic coming that changed the face of the world? You obviously want to decrease down to less premium. Things start to get better, you can move back up to more benefit, and you can interchange at any time, which is extremely unique in the market. What has actually made us unique? I think in terms of what we've brought out is extremely unique. As we always say, Capital Legacy, we don't want to be also ran. In other words, we don't want to actually copy anyone.
Me too.
Me too. What we always want to do is we actually want to look at what the problems are actually out in the market, and what can do to actually solve or better what is currently there. So we offer MyCover as an extender or rider to unlock the real value for the client. And I think we spent a bit of time, and Alex explained it really well, saying all our costs are actually built into the LPP. So when we are actually quoting from a MyCover perspective, it's actually the real cost of that actual cover. And I think we're one of the first companies where we actually put it as a rider, which actually makes the premiums extremely competitive. We're the first company that can indemnify proceeds from an executor and trustee fees at no cost. And I think we've shown quite well on our examples how this actually works. As we are insurers and estate administrators, we can pay the testamentary trust directly. And that's extremely unique and actually takes a lot of the hassle when winding up the estate. We've seen how this actually can affect the estate and affect the beneficiaries. And as the estate administrator, we can pay those proceeds directly into testamentary trust.
So we've actually integrated the will to the beneficiary nominant. So if you create a children's trust, for example, it'll be the name of the children's trust as the beneficiary.
Yeah. And then importantly, we can pay advisors extra for the will introduction and secure the share of fees at death. And I think we demonstrated that quite well with regards to our WIFM slides. Now, guys, last week I actually touched on, when we did Home Vantage, our Legacy Link platform. The Legacy Link is our app or our portal that we've actually brought to the market. We really want to make it broker friendly. And what you can sort of do on this portal is you can see your whole client listing. You can have access to our quick quoting tools. So what we've just discussed now, there's the MyCover quoting tool is up. Our Home Vantage quoting tool will be up, as well as our key plan quoting tool still to come. You can view your client's quote listing. So if you've done 4 or 5 different quotes, you can actually go back into these quotes and say, oh, which one did I actually do for client A? And which version of that? You can actually go back into it. You can submit a lead through Legacy Link. Many of you have been working with us for 8 years, almost a decade now. You can obviously submit a quick lead straight through Legacy Link. You don't actually have to go on the internet now to actually do that. Product information downloads, everything that you've actually heard from Alex and myself, both last week and this week, is all available on Legacy Link. And guys, we're going to be building on this. It's going to be an interactive portal, and everything that you do need is going to go through Legacy Link, and we're just going to be building on month, year on year onto this. You can speak to your BC on how to get onto Legacy Link. We just need your email address and your existing password and login that you've been using to get onto our website. And this will allow you to get onto Legacy Link.
Gentlemen, really very exciting times, and I know that you watching this webinar have had to take in a lot of information, but it's a lot of good information. Now, a quick disclaimer, I am not in the financial game at all. In fact, my maths is so bad, it's why I went into production and why I'm up on the stage and hosting, and why you check my invoices, exactly. Thank you for that. Thanks for putting me on the spot there. But the reality is that as a punter, somebody who would be potentially taking out these products, I am incredibly excited by what I hear Capital Legacy has and is doing in the marketplace. So I certainly hope that you as financial advisors are starting to get even more excited now that you know more about this product. However, there are some financial advisors who clearly haven't been listening too closely. So there are a couple of questions that have come through. And I'm glad to see that in impairment, losing your sight is one of the things that is covered, because I definitely need my glasses. Let's just, well, in the next 10 minutes or so that we have left on the webinar, the first question that's come through, Alex, I think I'm going to throw this to you. You mentioned Benefactor, and I think you explained it quite well in terms of what it is and what you offer. But the question has come through: is Benefactor like your Vitality or your Multiply product?
So, do you want to say the names of products?
Well, that's what I
webinars. Yeah. So I think in essence, it's our thing.
Yeah.
It's our thing. Vitality made Discovery famous. It's a fantastic way of looking at the health of someone and encourage them to do such. Multiply, a little bit similar, but also with good rewards. Benefactor is our thing that makes us unique. It talks to our ability to indemnify. It talks to our ability to have beneficiary nomination best practice, to be able to give more benefit for less by virtue of already having the legacy protection plan that we believe everyone should have. So it's our story. It's our thing. So yeah, it is exactly that. It's our thing.
Fantastic. Another question that's come in, and I had to do a little bit of quick research while I was getting this question in. Is MyAbility, and I think, Alex, again to you, is MyAbility, is it comparable to SCIDEP?
SCIDEP, okay, yes. So yes, it absolutely is. It's no better, it's no worse. It is exactly the same. If you had to take a comparable critical illness or dread disease cover, and you had to look at all the different conditions on the medium and high severities. So we've got to push to ensure the medium and high severities, so they're not, you're not just having 1 million, you've got 2 million. They're 100% comparable.
So sorry, just to add on there, I think that's very important in MyAbility is coming from being in financial services for many years now, is there's a big competition out there with who can cover more in terms of illnesses, in terms of different disabilities, etc. And what we've looked to do is we've looked at what is the most common and what is the worst situation that you can leave a beneficiary or family in or yourself in. And that is actually what you're trying to cover. And we looked at sort of 93% of the time, what is the actual claims that come in? And that we actually want to be providing the best cover and the best service for, to make sure if that event actually happens, which is 93% of the time it does occur, you're actually covered.
And I think it's about, for us, it's about doing things that we see need a problem solved. So often I think what you're also trying to say is that you have a product and you're trying to be everything to everyone.
100%.
And when you do everything to everyone with life insurance,
it waters it down.
You're going to dilute the value proposition of what you're trying to achieve. So we're going to be strong, and we're going to try not pander to every sort of whim and need. And that might mean that we're not be 100% of your solution all the time. But when we do offer the solution, we're going to do it damn well.
As always. Last question before we wrap up this morning. And I guess, certainly while I was listening to you, Brandon, I think you answered this question very well, but I guess there are still some financial advisors who may be a little concerned. The question that's come through is, what happens with my existing clients?
Good question. As I said, we've had that question come through a lot since the Larry launch.
Naturally.
And as always, your clients, if you're an advisor and you've sent us your clients to go out and draft the will and offer legacy protection plan, that'll still continue, and your clients are still ring fenced as always, what we've done for the past 8 years at Capital Legacy, and that will not change. Our primary focus is still the will and the legacy protection plan to indemnify you for those fees when we pass away, and then to wind up that estate to the lowest possible cost or with no cost at all. But with regards to the MyCover, I think what that does, it presents an opportunity for a financial advisor or independent financial advisor to go back to their clients now who've got the will with us, who's got the legacy protection plan with us, and go have another conversation with them and say, this is what we can do now, let's look at your financial plan, and this is what we can do better. Again, it's not an internal thing. It won't be our consultants. We're urging the financial advisor to go out and do this.
And if you were paying attention, as I'm sure you were, you would have seen the WIFM bit of the presentation, which I think everybody probably sat up and took notice of and go, okay, lots more.
Advisors? No.
So certainly, what's in it for you? There is a lot in it for you. Brandon and Alex, thank you so much for giving up your time to chat about MyCover. As we said right at the beginning of this webinar, capital legacy may be known for wills and last testaments and estate planning, but it's a natural progression to go into life cover with MyCover. Now, it's not where we stop. We might be stopping now in terms of time, but next week, do make sure that you join us for the last and final installment in our webinar series. We're going to be looking at Tazkiyah Legacy Protection Plan for our Muslim community, a very exciting new product that is launched into the marketplace, as well as succession planning. And a treat for you, I'm not sure that it's going to be Alex and Brandon who will be up here, but Edwin Forster will be on camera. He's been looking forward to it, so make sure that you join us next time. It's on Tuesday, not on Wednesday, so it's on the 1st of September. Do make sure that you join us for that. We will be right here on Webinar Jam. Thank you so much for your time. Alex, Brandon, thank you very much for the explanation. Great having you.
Great for now.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity.
That's where we will leave it for now. We'll catch you again next time. Thank you so much for joining us.